Cities are a really interesting test case for technologies. In a certain way, cities are creations of technology. If we didn't have them, they wouldn't exist. And that goes back to the days of plumbing, heating, electricity, trains, roads, everything makes cities. And so a really interesting question is, at a time of huge change in technology, what are going to be the effects of those changes on the cities that we live in, which are in many cases, as Paris being a perfect example, might be thousands of years old. So what happens when 21st century technology collides with medieval cities? And we've got Olivier Fleurot, who is a great hero of the Publicis Groupe and former executive at the Financial Times. He's got a great crew that he's going to introduce from very different perspectives to give you an idea of what you can expect in the streets around you in the next 10 or 20 years. So thank you. Go for it.
Thank you very much. Welcome to building Digitopolis, as they say, or disruptors in the city. We have a very international panel today, thanks to this exciting VivaTech show. So let me introduce the various members quickly. Nathalie Leboucher is head of strategy, innovation and business development at what we call RATP, which is the transportation company for the Paris region, but also very active in many other countries. We have Senator Cornelia Yzer, who is the Senator for Economics, Technology and Research in the government of the state of Berlin. And I think you have a track record also in business, so you have a mix of business and political background, which will be very, very interesting. And you are on the board of R&D institutions too, right? So we also have Jonathan here, who is probably a disruptor. He's built and launched mobile products and platforms that are now used by billions of people at Facebook and also, I think, Android. And then we have other disruptors. Well, one at least. Othman Nasrou is not that much of a disruptor, but he is the president of the committee in charge of economy, employment and innovation at the Paris region that we call Île-de-France Région in Paris. And we have Assaf Biderman, who is a real technology inventor, who is at the moment working and teaching at the MIT, where he's associate director of a lab called the Senseable City Lab, right? And he will tell us more about that. So we have a real, very diverse set of backgrounds. So may I start, maybe Nathalie, to ask you, because you are in a very big company that has a lot of infrastructures and transportation vehicle, buses and metro and etc. What does digital mean for a company like yours?
You're right. We are a big company, and we've been investing for years in infrastructures, in metros, buses, tramways. But what we see is that the digital revolution is reaching all sectors. So we want to benefit from this revolution to be able to create always more innovative and sustainable offers for the public authorities and for our final users. And I guess you are all travelers on our networks. So it's very important for us to use the creativity and agility of startups, like some of the people here on the stage, to be able to innovate, because we are in a world of competition, and open innovation is really key for our success.
Okay, thank you very much. I can think of many applications using the metro and the buses that you could develop for all of us. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more. If I go to you, Jonathan, I think you are the CEO of a company called Zendrive, and I understand that the main purpose of this company is to actually make sure that the roads are safer in a way, right? Can you tell us a bit more?
That's true. Every year, about 1.5 million people die on the road. It's a very big number, and a number that's completely unacceptable. We're talking about people in their prime that primarily die because of human error. And when I quit Facebook and was looking for the next challenge and built a team of technologists, we felt that this is a problem worth solving. It's a problem that touches every community. Here in France, about 3,000 people die on the road every year. And the solution that we developed and invented is using a technology that is currently accessible and available in every car out there, which is the smartphone.
Okay. Well, when did you start the company?
We started about 3 years ago, and we're based in Silicon Valley.
Now, Senator, Berlin, big city at the center of Europe. How digital is it? How digital do you want it to be?
First of all, it's great to be in Paris today because we have a long-lasting partnership and also working cooperation on tech issues with Berlin, and especially in difficult times in Europe, it's important that the long-lasting relationship between Paris and Berlin is underlined here. So, talking about digitalization, Berlin is definitely a digital hub in these days. The nucleus was a startup community which is very strong, which attracted more than 2 billion euros last year as venture capital, and that already shows there is a tech strength. But this startup community does not only raise money, but also attracts multinational players, large, medium companies to come into Berlin, start incubators, accelerators, and digital units. And that means there is a startup hub which will definitely come up with new solutions with regard to the expectations of our citizens, creating a smart city, but also with regard to the expectations of our economy, because I'm convinced that digitalization will once again change the entire industrial value chain.
Thank you. Assaf, you told me that actually your main focus in life is looking at cities and how they develop and what can be done to make them better place to live in.
That is correct. I mean, I guess at least for the last 14 years or so, we founded a lab called Senseable City Lab at MIT in 2004, which partners with mayors all around the world, from Cape Town to Rio to Singapore to New York, Seattle.
So you will soon work with Berlin, right?
Probably. Give us 5 minutes. But the main premise is that cities today are the predominant way of living on the planet, and it's just growing. They face many challenges as a result of their size, of the amount of people they contain. And there's a tremendous opportunity today to do something about those challenges and the opportunities that cities face, given a completely new wave of technologies that are merging with physical things. If you think about the internet as a virtual environment, take that virtual environment and overlay it on the physical space. Beyond controlling it from the top down, making lights synchronize with cars and autonomous cars synchronize with infrastructure, you can open it up for citizens, startups, nonprofits, governments to start to program the city itself. So we're just scratching the surface in a new way of actually participating in both living and servicing the places we inhabit.
Okay, we'll come back and you'll give us a few examples, all right?
Sure.
So, Othman Nasrou, you are working with Valérie Pécresse in the Île-de-France region, as we call it, or Paris region, which includes Paris. But I think it's about 10 million people
It's 12.
12, okay. So 12 million. And obviously, for such a big region, there are a lot of things that could also maybe make our lives better. And I know that you are very interested in incubators of startups also. So tell us a bit more about that.
Thank you. Just to start, Olivier, well, I'd like to say that maybe as a young elected member of the regional council, in politics too, we need disruptive ideas, and maybe today more than ever. Well, maybe just to start, I'll give a quick outlook on what the Paris region is. I mean, we have really key strengths when it comes to supporting innovation, and that's what is at stake here. It's 12 million inhabitants. It's the Paris region. It's 500,000 firms. It's the first economic region in Europe, and we are building on these key strengths with a simple idea with the president of the region, Valérie Pécresse, who is currently working on the place to meet with startups and companies here in this event. So what I'd like to say on behalf of her, it's in Paris region we do not fear the future. We are working to prepare it. What I want to mean is that digitalization, for example, it's not just another field of activity, but it can and it has to embrace all our public policies as a region, as a local authority. We are working, for example, in the field of transportation on dematerializing our travel pass to make it available on everyone's phone. We have decided to release systematically on all our data on an open data platform, which will be available for everyone online, of course. It's a state of mind, but the key point is that you drive the changes, and we are supporting you. It's not the other way around. We have to adapt because the jobs creation, the investment funds that can back new activities, well, they need a business-friendly environment, and that is what we are actually trying to build.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now, I would like maybe Jonathan to give us a few ideas of how we can better use data, and you also maybe to give us a few ideas of what the MIT is looking at and then have reactions from Berlin and from the senator and also from a bigger companies, because those guys are the disruptors in a way. So Jonathan, how do you use data?
Sure. So I think there's a combination of a few really interesting trends here. The first one is the digitization of the world, the IoT revolution, where the first set of sensors is the smartphones, but then later on you have advanced sensors plugged into cars and buses and lights and cameras and the roads themselves and sewage, and pretty much the entire city lights up with data. And so we're right now at kind of phase one, but there's a lot more data that's coming online in the next 5 to 10 years, which will make a lot more possibilities realistic. But because we're at phase one, and because Zendrive focus is very much on safety, I'm going to take safety as the first example. There is a quite famous effort called Vision Zero that actually started here in Europe, in Stockholm, where cities around the world, and we're talking about hundreds of municipalities around the world, take a public commitment to have 0 fatalities on the road within 10 years. It's certainly a worthwhile goal and something that I think everyone in this room would like to see happen. But the question now is, how do you make it real? How do you take policy or PR and turn it into actions and into change and saving people's lives? And so if you look at the tool sets that cities currently have, they have a variety of policies. They can change the tariffs on getting into the city. They can change the price of gas. They can add cameras, they can put policemen, they can stop turns, they can change the rules of the roads. They have a lot of tools in their set. But what works and what doesn't work? And how do you make sure that you actually hit the goal and in 10 years reach 0 fatalities? In New York, where there's more than 250 people dying every year, the city has been trying to combat this challenge for 4 years now. So almost the halfway mark. And regulators understand that without access to data about what's actually happening on the road, it's very difficult to improve safety. And so the first step is to measure, the first step is to analyze and to view what is happening on an intersection by intersection basis and start asking why. What's the difference between intersection A and intersection B? And starting making experiments, just like we do in the tech world with A/B testing for a lending website with different content. You can do an A/B test between the same road in different periods, testing different measures. And in San Francisco, we've worked with the San Francisco municipality and showed that some of the policy that would normally take 2 to 3 years to evaluate is effective in 6 months. And so taking a platform or taking a question that normally takes years to solve and compressing it by accessing massive amount of data into an actionable recommendation is something that data can do and can do very effectively, also outside of safety.
Okay, Assaf, what are the best ideas you've seen so far, and the ones you are the most proud of, in a way?
So I think you skipped the first half of my bio, which is that today I'm running a company which I founded, which is called Superpedestrian.
Oh yeah, I forgot that, sorry.
And Superpedestrian is about building robots that help people move through the big cities we build. So things that synchronize with our body very efficiently and magnify our force, make it very seamless to move, yet very easy. So if we build on what on this topic of data, think beyond the Internet of Things for a second. If everything lights up with information and you can observe flows of people, flows of energy, flows of air quality pollutants, and so on and so forth. How do you take action about it? It's a key question, right? Because to really be effective, to have a smart city, you want to be able to respond, close the loop. So the first way to respond is to tell people what's going on and have people respond. So people would be the actuators ultimately of the place. And there's a lot of that going on. And the second way to respond is to actually have actuated systems. So beyond the Internet of Things, now that we're seeing robotics making its way into everyday life, it's a really exciting era, because you're going to start to be able not only to measure and analyze, but also to have dynamic systems that respond. So I'll give you very quickly 2 examples. One is Senseable City Lab put a bunch of robots in sewers. It's a project we do with the city of Kuwait. And these robots dive into the sewer, take samples every once in a while, and through PCR, through genetic amplification, we look for certain bacteria. We basically characterize the microbiome of neighborhoods. Microbiome is a great way to tell about the human health. And using the sewer, we use it as a proxy for the health of a neighborhood. And then you can build models of propagation. Disease propagation between one neighborhood and the other, correlation with other socioeconomic data or zoning data, so information about the place itself and how it correlates with public health. So that's one example. We call this project Underworlds. Another example is the product that we're building at Superpedestrian, which is called the Copenhagen Wheel. And that's a robot that you can put on any bike. It's a wheel, but it measures you and it adapts to your body and makes you about 10 times stronger. So the overall sensation is that you are Superman. So you can just pedal normally and deal with a big city like Paris at no effort.
Great, if we can all get much stronger. So Nathalie, do you know about all those?
Yes, I was lucky. I could visit MIT Senseable lab a few years ago, and they invited me to show me what they were doing about the sewage, the garbage. And it was really an interesting IoT project because they put sensors, and you can see that the way we manage the sewage, the garbage, is really very bad regarding carbon emissions because it flows all over the planet. So it was really interesting to follow the flow of the different plastic bottles and so on around the world, coming from, I don't know, a dustbin or a trash can in MIT.
In Seattle.
Yeah, in Seattle, yeah. So maybe to give some examples regarding public transportation, what I would like to explain is that due to the digital revolution, we could observe a shift in the value chain because back in the old days, we would produce transport solutions and sell passenger tickets. That's where people would know us. But today, due to the explosion of digital technologies, which we need to integrate along the way, then we see an important part of the value chain on information. And information is key because then we're going to be able to provide better services to our customers. For example, we use big data techniques or Internet of Things techniques to bring some data up. And I must say that at RATP we are very lucky because we have all our vehicles connected and all our equipment's already connected. I mean, nearly everything like elevators, escalators, tolls, and buses, trains, and so on. They are sending a lot of data. So what we want to do is work always more and more with startups in this field of big data. For example, we work with Captain Dash, which is a French company. We work with Urban Engines, which is a company based in San Francisco. And they help us to improve both services to customers and also our operational efficiency, and maybe also sometimes to improve the sustainability of our services. So really, we see the benefits of open innovation. We do a lot of experiments. It's test and learn principle. You test for a few months, and then you see how you can really use it. So it's not about technology, it's really about usage. And we're really happy to be participating to this event because for us it's a great way to accelerate in open innovation.
Senator, I'm told by my son, one of my sons lives in Berlin, that it's a very creative city, that there are a lot of designers and very creative activities going to Berlin actually and growing in Berlin. So how do you make sure that this creativity actually can be used to make Berlin an even greater city?
Your son is of course right. Berlin is a very creative city. We have lots of designers, lots of musicians, but also lots of techies. And the important thing is to bring all these competences and expertises together to create new solutions people are waiting for. When I talk about musicians, for example, it's great to have them in the city. But to start a company like SoundCloud, providing solutions nobody even knew in the past that there would be a need, that's the great deal Berlin is doing in this.
What is this company doing?
They are offering digital music solutions, so it's one of the fastest growing companies in the musical sector.
Okay.
And the same is true when I talk about classical industry and startups coming up with disruptive business solutions. For example, creativity. Berlin has a very strong games industry. When I told them, come over, talk to established companies, it's about production 2.0. They told me, sorry, that's not our turf. But when I told them, let's talk about industrial gaming, because the established companies tell me that they need new solutions, self-explaining solutions, like we have it in private life in the games industry, then they said, okay, this could be an approach. And that's the curious thing in Berlin, that we bring people together, and frankly, we organize it also by governmental programs. We bring people together that never thought that they could have something in common. And that's perhaps the secret of Berlin in these days, why we are very successful also in the economic field, to come up with digital solutions. And we have to do the same for urban tech solutions, smart cities. We all talk about smart cities. We all produce data, millions of data every day. The ability to manage them properly will create solutions, for example, in the field of mobility, in the field of energy, to have a more sustainable approach using energy in the right point in time, connecting it with mobility. Car sharing solutions are very common in Berlin in these days, because it's a way to adaptive economy, which means that people get the product and the service they need in that moment and not in general. And e-mobility is a big issue, because we want to save energy, but to have energy supply and be careful in using energy means that we also need to open up an opportunity to store it. And e-mobility is a perfect business case how you can store energy and make it available at the right point in time. And that's what we initiated as government 3 years ago. 30 core projects to show the feasibility of e-mobility solutions. And the effect was that 200 companies followed, and they said, we'll start our own projects, now making Berlin an e-mobility city, not only in the field of cars, but also buses or transport solutions for tourists, as we have 30 million tourists per year now.
Great, thank you. Othman, in the Île-de-France region or Paris region, it looks like we are creating more and more incubators, and that startups actually are encouraged to come to Paris more and more. Does Brexit make a difference?
Well, I'm sure Berlin is great, but a few words more on the Paris region, and of course, in the wake of Brexit. We have in the Paris region 5,000 of startup companies, and we are doing our best to make the region very attractive for them. We are investing massively on incubators, on innovation centers, on making also more and more investment funds coming to Paris, settling there and investing in these companies. We have 1,000 companies each year raising money in seed or Series A, among which more than 60% are in the Paris region. But it's not enough. What we have to do, and that's what I said later, it's simple. You are here, and those ones maybe particularly, are in the driving seat economically. And we only can assist you with making your life easier. It's also the case in way of standard of living. I mean, you are perfectly right in that. It's also the case in the field of culture, because we have to provide also a better standard of living. But the world is changing, and the state of mind in the French public sector has also to change. I think we are eventually getting there. It's not always easy, but we are working hard to that, and I think that we are achieving something these days. We have in the Paris region tier one higher education institutions, be it universities or what we call here grande école. Well, it's really great to see that more and more of these students become CEOs and founders of their digital companies. That is a great opportunity for us. So the world is changing, and it's not a threat. We believe it's an opportunity we are determined to seize, but we need that those who have disruptive ideas to join us from London or anywhere else in the world to build one of the most innovative, competitive, thriving areas in the world.
So Nathalie, if we look ahead, as we call it, RATP, you might want to change your name at some point, right? Especially for international markets. The RATP, of course, is focused on transportation, but it's easy to imagine that you could do much more using digital technologies. You could be in the last kilometer distribution, maybe of a lot of e-commerce products and stuff like that.
You're right. I think the digital revolution is really putting ahead a lot of opportunities for the future. What we see more and more, and as was said for Berlin, is that we have new forms of mobility coming. Now the people, they want to go from point A to B, and they might take different means of transportation. They just want to go the quickest and the more comfortable way and the more connected way, because this is very important. We need to meet the needs of our travelers who want to be connected because they want to have a useful time during transportation. It doesn't matter anymore if you are spending maybe 10 minutes more in the metro, but really they want us to work hard on deploying our 3G, 4G, which is what we are doing. Today we already have 3 lines which are fully connected, and by end of 2017 we should have most of them. So that's very important, and we want to work on the different layers. Because, of course, we believe mass transit will always be there. We are proud, for example, to operate the biggest commuter line in Paris, which is over 1 million passengers per day. So this will stay. But what we believe startups can help us is to work on new forms of mobility. For example, we see that autonomous vehicles could be a game changer in urban mobility. We see in Paris now new forms of mobility that we didn't see before, like Autolib started in December 2011. We have Velib. So
and I think there is
we believe it's going to be a mix.
I don't know the name, but there is one for scooters also.
Yes, scooters have started recently. So we see that there'll be a big choice. And what we want to do as a company is really to enlarge the offer we can bring to our customers so they have the choice. And that's why in my department in innovation, we are looking at on-demand transport, for example, or we are looking at autonomous minibuses. That could be part of the solution of future urban mobility.
Mm-hmm. So what other ideas you guys, the disruptors, are thinking of that when you see mass transportation in cities? I think it's fair to say that by 2040, 45, there'll be 3/4 of the world population living in cities. I don't know if the trend is really true, but that's what we read everywhere, and we see mega cities developing fast in many countries. Will we need cars in those cities, or should we ban cars in those cities? What do you think?
So I think there's a real conundrum here and a real question about the next 20 years of urban growth. On the one hand, it's very clear that transportation has a huge impact in designing the future of cities. The urban sprawl in the US and the suburban environment that's growing outside of major metropolitans is an example of how the personal vehicle did that in the past. And now what smart city planners are thinking about is how does the autonomous vehicle change these patterns? On the one hand, you have those who think that given an autonomous vehicle, a long commute, becomes less painful, less annoying. And so people will optimize to get a big house outside of the city, and you'll see a slowdown of urbanization. On the other hand, autonomous vehicles can make for a very efficient transportation system where clogged roads are a thing of the past, and where living in very dense population area becomes less painful. And so there's another camp that thinks that this will actually be an accelerant of the trend of mass urbanization. And so I think the question is still out there, and I'm curious what are the regulators and what are the transportation executives on this panel would think of that.
Well,
Yes.
there's two ways to think about it. One is how will a robotic car change the city, but also let's take the other point of view and ask, well, what is the structure of the road network? In general, it's a fractal, okay, which means that it has sort of a repeating pattern from the core, from the node, all the way as you go out away from the center. Some cities have multiple centers, but the principle holds between cities, relatively speaking. And that means that you have the same capacity downtown as you do in the periphery of town. So you will never be able to serve all the demand of those who live outside downtown if we use something in the form factor of a car. Okay? The street is in the same scale of the car, it just doesn't fit. So even if all of us had autonomous self-driving cars today, you'd still see severe transportation problems. An autonomous car is just another form of public transport. It makes sense if it's public. If it's one person, one car, all you've done is get rid of parking, which is big. But you got rid of parking, that's it. You haven't done much else. All right? So I think we have to think about this as one of many different animals, meaning different vehicles, that will live on the road. We have the autonomous oil tanker, an A380. We have the autonomous train. We have the autonomous car. And we'll have autonomous smaller stuff for logistic. We'll have stuff that's closer to our body, right? Your autonomous limb that's that's a prosthetic. And you'll have stuff that's in between, right? That's helping you move that last mile, the last 5 miles, things that rely on your body, that keep you healthy, that keep you active. Think about it. Even today, there is a tremendous search for an alternative to the automobile altogether. Right? Take, for example, if I were to show up at MIT 20 years ago in a Lamborghini, I'd be the coolest guy on campus. And if I did it today, people would think I have a problem, right? Autonomous or not, right? So that says something. So that emotional connection has eroded with the automobile. People are searching for something else. What is it going to be? Probably something smaller, closer to our scale, something somewhat autonomous, something that's easy, fun, and sexy to use.
So Othman, at the region level, are you encouraging mass transportation? Do you think cars are the solution, even driverless cars?
Well, what is interesting is that we have in this region some major leaders in a wide range of industries, among which there is the automotive industry, and they are facing, major challenges with these issues. What is interesting is to see that they have chosen to invest massively. For example, some of them have created corporate ventures fund to be able to maybe reshape their business model. That's very interesting. We at the region level, we are of course working hard for mass transportation because we have one of the best transportation networks in Europe, but we are trying to improve it and to improve also the conditions of transportation in everyone's day-to-day life. So we are working on this. That does not mean that the car is dead and that we should ban cars from cities. No, we have 10 million of inhabitants who live in the suburbs, and some of them have no choice but to take their car every morning. I'm one of them, and I really prefer not to take my car, but I do not always have the choice. So we have to be really, I think, realistic, pragmatic on these issues, and not be in the ideology. But what is interesting is to be really on the heart of what is going to be the future of automotive industry, but it's also the case for other industries such as building materials, energy, or also here luxury. I think we are reinventing new ways, new business models for all these industries, and that's what is really interesting.
So, yeah, Nathalie, you want to say something?
I just wanted to just give an example to what was said. The region is really supporting us, I mean the Paris region, to shift our whole bus fleet to clean buses. So we have more than 4,500 buses in the greater Paris area, and we have a big program, I would say, like, I suppose like in Berlin, to shift all this bus fleet to electrical and GNV buses. And this is really very important because it's going to help us to lower our carbon footprint, which is already quite low thanks to metros and tramways. But that was the last thing we needed to do to be a sustainable company. And I think that was what you were mentioning. The issue for our cities tomorrow is, thanks to digital solutions, to smart cities solutions, is really to be sustainable, whether, of course, people choose to live in the suburbs or in the city. But we see a sort of concentration movement. And this is why mass transit will, of course, keep its place. But you need to find flexible ways for people also to travel. And they will want to have the choice. And this is possible thanks to the smartphone. Because with the smartphone, with internet, you get multimodality, you can choose. You know in real time what's happening on the different networks. You can see in some cases the charge of the trains. Okay, so you can decide then if it's full there, I'll go another way. And depending on what you're going to do, then you can choose your different modes of transport.
So, Senator, how do you see the future of a big city like Berlin, and what are the key innovations, the key new usage of digital digital technologies that could really change and improve the way people live in Berlin?
First of all, the administration itself has to go digital.
Good.
Completely unacceptable that we still ask citizens to go to an administration office to pick up their driver's license or a new passport. It's not necessary anymore. That's why we have to go digital. Public transport, it's completely unacceptable that we use public transport without having Wi-Fi all the time. To be fully interconnected, whether you're in a bus, a train, wherever, is key. Same is true for cars. There is a company in Berlin, they are called Yzer. A couple of years ago, they were founded, Gate 5, a startup company, acquired by Nokia, now bought by the big car suppliers, because they are aware that they have the best mapping solutions, the best data, and that's key to go for future autonomous driving. And I'm convinced we'll have cars as also in future. They will be autonomous because driving by human beings will be regarded as far too dangerous. We'll rely on the technology. And of course, it will be different with regard to the manufacturers, because it's not decided there yet whether the automotive industry or data companies like Google or others will build the transportation of the future. those who invest now go digital, like the automotive companies that invest in here will be those companies that will be the successful companies in the future.
Thank you. So now I'd like to have 2 ideas, if I may, from each of you on things that you think either your company or your city or your region should do to better leverage digital technology. So who wants to start? You want to start, Nathalie?
Okay.
I mean,
that's
I
right.
know you are, doing a lot of things, so maybe you can...
Yes, we're trying to offer customers always new services. We were talking before together about 4 pins, which is it's called in French quatre épingles. It's a startup we're working with to provide a cleaning service on our metros, so that because we believe people they go through our metros every day back and forth, and they want to be able to gain some time on what they're doing, and not to have to do the cleaning on Saturday, like we all know. So it's very important to use the technologies to be able to provide these new services. I would like to say that we are happy in Paris to have a great ecosystem. Of course, there are great ecosystems in San Francisco, also in many other places. But in Paris, thanks to some support from the region and the city, we have very nice incubators. At RATP, we work, for example, with Numa. We work with Plug and Play in San Francisco. And it's very important for us in our open innovation strategy.
So it is now complete, because I can imagine that for a company like yours, there's of course technology and how to use technology, but there is the mindset and how to change the mindset within the company.
Yes, you're right. I didn't mention it, but we're working on this transformation, which is very important for our employees. As Vignette Naya said, maybe some of you read, this Indian businessman read a book called Employees First, Customers Second, which might be surprising. But I think he's right, because if we want our customers to be happy, we need our employees to be happy and to be digital. And this is why we're working on a program for our employees to have more, of course, digitalized tools, to be more used to these technologies. And we start by what we call a passport, a digital passport, which a lot of big groups are doing, which is going to give you some, I would say, common knowledge of these new technologies and these new usages, because usages are more important than technologies. And then we want to focus, of course, on more training on digital. So the employees part is really important, and the fact that we are going to complement our internal innovation, which has been in the DNA of the company for 4 years, with open innovation, it's really, I would say, some oxygen, some new mindset that we want to bring within our group.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, 1 or 2 ideas that are going to change the world.
Sure, I'll try to keep it short. The first one would be to give every municipality around the world a dashboard of real-time understanding of what's happening in every street and every intersection. Not just the amount of traffic that's going, but the kind of risky behavior, and allow regulators and police and everyone else to react in real time or almost real time and eradicate life loss in the cities. So that's the first thing, and I think this will happen in the next 5 years. The second one is preparing cities to a future where there is a mix between human drivers and autonomous vehicles. I think that it will be lovely if some cities will choose certain neighborhoods, remove or make it illegal to park, and add an autonomous vehicle lane, so that that type of traffic can start being embedded into day-to-day life. I think San Francisco is talking about starting something like that, and I'd like to see more cities attempt that integration of autonomous vehicles.
Thank you. Senator, 2 things to make Berlin an even greater city.
what governments really have to take care of is a strong digital infrastructure. To have 50 or 100 Mbits is fine for private usage of the household. But to make all the solutions in the mobility sector, in production 4.0, in e-health, come true, that the precondition is and the prerequisite is that we have a strong infrastructure. We have to go for gigabit cities, where real-time data is available. And that also means, and that's what I implement in Berlin now, is that we do not only have parts of Berlin where we make a gigabit available, but that we also go for the next generation of mobile standards, 5G, and we will implement them in test beds so that the companies who work on the products for future solutions have a testing field where they can realize their ideas and business concepts.
Thank you. We're running out of time, so very quickly, Assaf and Othman, one idea for smart cities.
Maybe I'll just say one thing then. Let's forget about mobility for a second. We're already in process to really transform transportation in cities within the next 5 to 10 years. So I'll put that aside. I think the next two big things to tackle are, number one, education, and there's a lot you can do with the connection between digital and physical, and healthcare. These are going to be two major areas of transformation, especially in cities. It can make a very big difference.
Thank you, Assaf. Othman?
A quick idea, well, we will keep investing massively on research facilities, on also firm subsidies. I didn't talk about that, especially in the field of innovation, but it's always the mindset who matters. So feel free to reach to us. We will do whatever it takes to make your life easier here in the Paris region.
Thank you very much. I know it was a challenge after Eric Schmidt to attract attention. Thank you very much.